At the beginning of the film, we observe a girl comforting a crying Tommy. Jess explains to the autistic boy that bad dreams go away if you close your eyes and think of something pleasant. Next, we observe the girl's everyday life. Jess spends a lot of time at home doing housework and caring for her sick son. One day, the girl hears the doorbell ringing, but when she goes outside, she sees no one. Jess puts her things in a bag, going to go on a small sea voyage with friends. The girl drives to the seaport, where Greg is waiting for her on the yacht Triangle. Sally, meanwhile, appears on board, as well as Downey. Her friend informs her that she has brought the quiet Heather with her. Greg is a little angry, since they were going to keep the superfluous people out. The captain runs down to the dock as soon as he sees Jess tailing behind Victor. Greg is talking to the girl, and she suddenly apologizes to him. Jess is a little nervous, but says she's ready to travel. Soon the Triangle is out on the open sea. Jess is lying in her cabin, and it suddenly seems to her that she has been thrown by the waves onto a strange beach. Heather reassures the girl, saying she was having a nightmare. Victor, on the other hand, is talking to the captain. He finds it strange that Jess took so long to remember where her son is. Greg tells them that Tommy is sick and goes to a school for gifted children every day. The captain asks everyone to be more attentive to Jess. When the girl goes up on deck, Greg asks her to stand with him at the helm. Sally is not happy about this, as she wanted to bring the captain and Heather together. Jess tells the captain that she feels guilty when she doesn't spend time with her son. Greg thinks she's just being a good mother. Suddenly, the journey is no longer pleasant. First, the wind abruptly disappears, something Greg has never seen before. Downey notices a black cloud on the horizon, which rapidly increases in size. Greg tries to contact the Coast Guard and accidentally receives a distress call, which is interrupted almost immediately. The cloud, meanwhile, grows ever closer. The storm turns the Triangle upside down and then just as quickly disappears. Everyone except Heather is unharmed thanks to their life jackets. The wrecked victims drift for a long time on an overturned yacht. Soon, Victor notices a huge liner on the horizon. The ship passes close to the yacht and reduces speed, thanks to which Greg and his crew climb aboard. However, the liner turns out to be suspiciously empty. Led by Victor, everyone wanders the corridors. In one of them, Jess suddenly stops and says that this place seems suspiciously known to her. Victor finds a photo of a ship and its name, which reminds him of the myth of Sisyphus, whose long labor was futile. Suddenly, a noise is heard behind them. Victor goes into the corridor and finds the keys. Jess realizes with horror that it is her bunch of keys, which should have sunk with the yacht. Soon, the girl notices a strange shadow, and Victor goes after it. Jess continues to be haunted by a feeling of strange déjà vu, as if she was already on the liner. Together with Greg, the girl goes to the captain's bridge. On the way, they stumble upon an open cabin with the lights on. On one of the mirrors, Greg discovers a red sign that reads, "Go to the theater." Victor, meanwhile, continues trying to find the strange shadow Jess saw. The girl tells Greg that the emptiness on the liner seems suspicious to her. The captain thinks that the crew just decided to play a prank on them out of boredom, and Jess imagines horrors because of guilt about her son. The couple quarrel and go their separate ways. Downey and his wife, meanwhile, head to the theater. Jess returns to the dance hall when she suddenly sees Victor wounded. The guy suddenly attacks her, but the girl manages to escape. Jess runs into the theater, where Greg is lying dead. Sally pounces on the girl, believing that it was she who killed the captain. Sally also mentions that it was Jess who told them to go to the theater. The girl is perplexed, as she was with Greg, and then was attacked by Victor. Suddenly, a masked man attacks the guests. Downey and then Sally turned up dead. Jess manages to escape. She runs through the technical rooms and hides in the kitchen, armed with a knife. A masked man walks past her. Soon Jess is in a confrontation with the criminal. The masked man tries to warn the girl that they will be back, but Jess throws him overboard. After calming down, the girl goes into one of the cabins and looks at herself in the mirror, trying to cope with the loss of her friends. Jess suddenly hears a strange noise and goes on deck. Looking overboard, the girl is surprised to see an overturned yacht, where there are wrecked people, including herself. In a panic, Jess escapes from the deck and rushes through the corridors, trying to realize what has happened. The girl follows her friends and at one moment decides to sit down to deal with the influx of emotions. That's when the keys fall out of her pocket, which the second Jess finds. The girl runs away and follows her friends into the dance hall. It is then that the second Jess notices her in the reflection, and Victor goes in search of the strange shadow. The guy manages to find Jess on the deck. The girl tries to explain that there are two of them on the ship, and something strange is happening. Victor doesn't believe it, and Jess slightly pushes him, from which the guy hurts himself on the hook. It is in this state that he goes down to the dance hall, where he attacks the second Jess. Having wounded Victor, the girl starts running through the corridors again, trying to understand what she should do. Jess goes down to the technical rooms and tries to come to her senses. On the floor, she sees many pieces of paper that read, "If they come aboard, take their lives." Jess writes the same thing and realizes that the handwriting is identical. In the wardrobe, the girl finds the jacket the perpetrator who attacked them was wearing. A voice in her head asks Jess to handle everyone. The girl picks up the gun and starts crying. Suddenly, Jess notices many lockets like the one she's wearing around her neck. The girl remembers Tommy and realizes that she must fight for him. Jess fills up on ammunition and goes upstairs. In the dance hall, the girl points the gun at herself, but is unable to pull the trigger. The second Jess escapes, while a shocked Victor observes. The first Jess runs into the theater with the gun, but sees that Greg is already dead. The masked criminal opens fire again, but Jess manages to get Downey and his wife away. The girl gives the couple their weapons and goes after Victor. However, the first Jess sees the man fall overboard. Meanwhile, the second Jess removes her mask and asks Downey and his wife to follow her. The couple suspect nothing and agree. First Jess calls out to Downey, but the second Jess orders her not to respond. Second Jess lures the pair into a room and destroys Downey. Sally manages to escape, and first Jess runs after her, convincing her that she wasn't the one who attacked them. Second Jess, meanwhile, leaves a "go to the theater" sign on the mirror and says she would do anything for her son. Sally sneaks into the wheelhouse and puts out a distress call, which is what Greg heard before the storm. After that, the friend tries to run away, but first, Jess follows her. On one of the decks, the girl sees many bodies of Sally, already without signs of life. First, Jess looks out from the deck and sees another copy of herself massacring a criminal. First, Jess communicates with Sally and asks her to hang on. She promises that she can break the time loop and save everyone. A friend dies and joins the ranks of the other Sallys lying on the deck. It is at this point that the overturned yacht with the wrecked people reappears on the horizon. Jess realizes that everything is repeating itself as each of her friends dies. First, Jess makes her way down from the top deck again, trying not to be seen by her friends. The girl goes down to the back technical room and tries to stop the liner. Jess hopes that then she and her friends will be able to return to the overturned yacht, which remains nearby. However, no matter what levers the girl pulls, the liner continues on its way. Jess cries and then goes on deck, where she sees another copy of her accidentally take Victor's life. First, Jess realizes that there are 3 versions of her on the ship at the same time. One is unsuspecting, the second is trying to prevent the death, and the third is the criminal. And now it's her. First, Jess removes Greg and Downey from the cabins and theater. Afterwards, the girl finds Downey and Sally still alive and tells them to go to the theater. First, Jess finds Greg dressed as a criminal and points a gun at him. The girl says that now she needs to destroy everyone so that the loop will start again. Jess will then prevent the new Greg and his friends from coming aboard, and then it will all be over. After the massacre in the theater, the first Jess starts stalking her copy. However, the copy throws the girl overboard and the loop closes. First, Jess soon regains consciousness on the beach from the dream she was once woken from by Heather. Jess realizes she is not far from her home and runs to it. She observes her son through the window and realizes that it's finally over. However, there comes the voice of another Jess, who is just about to go on a trip on Greg's yacht. She comes back into the room and shouts at Tommy for leaving the toys in the garden. The copy then hits the boy when her son accidentally drops a glass of water for paint. First, Jess rings the doorbell to distract the copy from Tommy. The girl then goes to the shed where she takes a hammer. First, Jess destroys her copy, and her son sees this. The girl calms Tommy down, saying he was just having a nightmare. Jess then packs the copy in a bag and puts it in the boot. The girl puts Tommy in the car and promises that she will never hurt him again. Suddenly, a bird crashes into the windscreen. Jess picks it up and throws it off a cliff. The girl sees that there are many such birds lying there and realizes that the loop is still going on. Jess gets in the car and keeps driving. Tommy throws a tantrum over the stains on the windscreen. Jess tries to comfort her son, what causes the accident. As a result, Tommy dies. While Jess stands doomed by the roadside, a taxi driver approaches her and offers to take her anywhere. The girl asks him to take her to the harbor. Jess is ready to sail again on the Triangle and get on the liner to save Tommy. The loop closes again when Jess apologizes to Greg and gets on board. This is the end of the film. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like, write in the comments what you think about this film, and see you in new videos.